This is a story called The Little Monsters, Chapter 143, Part 1. The kids get bad school reports. It's that time of year where the kids should be working harder, as it's almost school report day. However, all the little monsters keep doing is messing about, disrupting the class, leaving the classroom without permission and ignoring their teachers instead of getting on with their work. Their teachers tell them over and over again to get on with their work, to behave themselves and to cooperate. Then one day one of their teachers, Mr. Pease, blows his top and shouts at them, "Right, I've had enough of you. Sit down and get on with your work now." The gang just laughed and carried on messing about, so Mr. Pease threw a board rubber at them. Then he said, "Now get on with your work." The kids got up and walked out, and the rest of the class followed. "Just where do you all think you're going?" asked Mr. Pease. "We're not staying here for you to throw stuff at us, Dad," answered Paul Pease. "Sit down now, all of you," said Mr. Pease. The whole class just ignored him. Fortunately for them, the school bell went for lunchtime. After lunch, they had Mr. Pear for double maths until home time. During the lesson, all the little monsters did was talk, mess about, and disrupt the class. Mr. Pease said to them, "Will you lot stop talking, stop messing about, stop disrupting the class and get on with your work, please?" The gang just totally ignored him, so he said to them, "I've told you lot to stop talking, to stop messing about, to stop disrupting the class and to get on with your work. Now, do as you're told, please." The gang still took no notice, so Mr. Pease said, "I've told you kids twice, now I'm telling you one last time to stop talking, stop messing about, stop disrupting the class and get on with your work. If you don't, all of you will be in detention at lunchtime and after school for the rest of the school year." The gang still took no notice, so Mr. Pear said, "Right, I've had enough of you kids, come up here now." The gang got up and walked towards Mr. Pear, and then they walked out of the classroom, went into the school playground, grabbed their bikes and rode to the Randell skate park. At around 3 p.m, they all rang their parents to let them know that they were going to the bike track and the skate park for a while. The next day they turned up at school over an hour late, and all they did was mess about all morning in Mrs. Pineapple's English class. Mrs. Pineapple said to them, "Stop messing about and get on with your work, all of you." The kids just ignored her and carried on messing about. This went on for a whole week, and when they got their school reports, they looked at them and laughed. Here's the grades they got and what each of their teachers said about each of them. Stampy, English, F. "I find that Billy is very disruptive, disrespectful and uncooperative. He refuses to do any of the work that I set for him. Lately, all him and his friends have done is mess about, talk and be disruptive in my class. They walk out of the classroom and leave the school without permission on a regular basis. So far this year, Billy has handed 0 assignments in. Even though Billy's a very bright boy, I have no choice but to fail him." Mrs. Pineapple. Stampy, Maths, F. "I find this year that Billy has done nothing but mess about, talk, be disruptive, be uncooperative and be disrespectful. He's not done any work at all during my lesson and he hasn't handed any homework in either. He constantly walks out of my lesson and off the school premises. This is a shame because Billy's a really bright boy. If he just settled down, he'd have a very bright future ahead of him. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to fail him in my class. Mr. Pear. Stampy, History, F. This year, Billy has been very disrespectful towards me. He comes to my lessons and does nothing but mess about, talk and disrupt the class with his friends. He hasn't handed any classwork or homework in to me at all this year. This has left me with no choice to fail him. I find this a total shame, as Billy is a very bright boy. He'd have a very bright future ahead of him if only he'd knuckle down, get on with his work and behave himself. Mr. Orange. Stampy, Science, F. All this year, all Billy and his friends have done is talk, disrupt the class and constantly mess about in my lesson. He hasn't done any work or handed anything in so far this year. I feel that Billy and his friends would do much better if they were separated into different classes next year. I have no choice but to fail Billy this year, which is a shame. This saddens me because Billy is a very bright boy. If he'd just knuckle down, he'd be able to get the grades he's capable of getting. Mr. Salt. Stampy, Geography, F. This year I've had no choice but to fail Billy in my class because he hasn't done any work or handed any in. All he does is mess about, disrupt the class, be disrespectful towards me, be uncooperative and leave the classroom without permission with his friends. Billy's a very bright boy who could have a very bright future if only he'd settle down. It's a shame that I have to fail him, but I have no choice. Mrs. Cupcake. Stampy, Music, F. Billy is a brilliantly talented musician with an amazing singing voice. However, this year during my class, all him and his friends have done is mess about, disrupt the class and mess about with the music equipment. He's disrespectful towards me. Him and his friends sing silly lyrics to the songs we're supposed to be singing in our next concert as a choir. He doesn't do any of the work I give him to do. Based on this, I feel that I have no choice but to fail him, which is a total shame. Mr. Redgrave. Stampy, Biology, F. This year during my lesson, all Billy has done with his friends is mess about, talk back to me, be disrespectful, disrupt the class, mess about with dangerous equipment, and leave the classroom without permission. Billy hasn't done or handed in any work so far this year, leaving me with no choice but to fail him. This is such a huge shame because Billy is a very bright boy. I believe that if he knuckled down and worked hard, he'd have a very bright future ahead of him. Mrs. Apricot. Stampy, Form Class F. During form class, all the kids are required to read, write and spell. They're also required to talk about things they like and dislike that's happened that week and to catch up on any work they haven't finished. However, all Billy has done is mess about, disrupt the class, talk back to me and be disrespectful with his friends. I feel I have no choice but to fail him when it comes to the work I set him to do. This is a huge shame because he's a very bright boy. Mr. Pease. Stampy, P-E-F. On arrival to my class, every week Billy has come up with excuse after excuse to get out of PE. One week he'll tell me he's forgotten his kit. Another week he'll tell me he doesn't want to do PE or he can't be bothered getting changed or taking part in the class. All he does when he does do the class is mess about with his friends. He's disrespectful, uncooperative, disruptive, and he abuses the equipment in the hall. It's with a great deal of sadness that I have to fail Billy. He's a very bright boy, which is a shame. Mr. Banana. Stampy, Drama, F. During the school year, Billy hasn't taken part in anything except at Christmas. I can't grade him on one thing that him and the rest of the class wrote and created. All Billy has done is mess about, talk back and be disrespectful to me, disrupt the class and leave the classroom without permission. Billy is a very bright boy, but I have no choice but to fail him in drama. Mrs. Redgrave. Stampy, Games, F. Unfortunately, I have no choice but to fail Billy this year because he just refuses to take part in the lesson. When he does take part, he constantly cheats in the games and spoils it for the other kids, along with his friends. He's disrespectful, loud, arrogant, uncooperative and disruptive. He's so bright, but he just won't do as he's told, which is why I have no choice but to fail him. Mr. Curran. Stampy, Swimming, F. Billy is a very strong swimmer, but he's just not reached any of the goals he should have reached this year. All the kids are required to reach certain goals, but all Billy and his friends have done is mess about in the pool and at the side of the pool. This leaves me with no option but to fail him and to ban him and his friends from the pool until further notice. Mr. Raisin. End of chapter 143, part 1. Hope you like it, guys. Remember, if you're watching on YouTube, please feel free to like, share, comment and subscribe. If you're watching on Facebook, please feel free to like, share, comment and to go to my YouTube channel and subscribe. Chapter 2 is coming up straight after this. Maybe tomorrow or the day after. Take care of yourselves, guys. Love yous. Bye.